Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch a Movie. I am Mike, and The Exorcist Believer has screened for people luckier than me. It's not playing anywhere around here. Kentucky just doesn't get shit like that. I guess we're too Bible Belt for the old demon Dusties. I haven't seen it yet, but the reactions online are something that felt like it would be fun to talk about. So I think the embargo for the actual Rotten Tomatoes full-on reviews is tomorrow at 11, but these reactions were definitely worth mentioning. So Epic Film Guys, getting right into it, Epic Film Guys say The Exorcist Believer is as thin as a communion wafer. Is it wafer? Wait. Body in the blood. The low point in the recent requel trend, devoid of the rich atmosphere and visceral intensity that made the 1973 film so compelling, not scary, not shocking, even divorced from the original, it's still a massive fumble. So that's about as bad as a review as you can get from something. Let me preface this whole video by explaining my thoughts on this whole thing. If you don't already know, I don't want the movie to be bad. I do not. I want the movie to succeed. I think a scary Exorcist movie would be awesome if they could somehow accomplish it. I have people who I've considered friends working on this movie. I don't want the movie to fail. My history with it is I saw the trailer and went, oh dear God, we're in deep shit. Because the trailer to me screamed, just absolutely screamed. And these people aren't in charge of these kind of decision making, but the trailer to me screamed just bubblegum, absolute cash grab, nothing to it. And I'm of the opinion, if you're going to go back and you're going to requel The Exorcist and we're going to Halloween 2018 skidoo this whole thing, great. I'm not against it, but if you're going to do that, try to make it scary. Try to make it. The Exorcist is the scariest film of all time, at least in my opinion is. And I think if you poll the entire world, it'd probably land as the best and scariest film of all time, even though I understand not everybody feels that way. But I feel like the majority of people do. So when you were going to have the nutsack to go and you're going to make a sequel to that, and you're going to talk about how terrifying it's going to be, and you're going to requel and get rid of all the sequels and all this stuff and bring back Ellen Burstyn, I think you have to at least try to make something notable, and you have to try to make something that's going to push the needle a little bit. That doesn't feel safe. And when we're going to get into what we're going to get into here, it sounds like a lot of people are echoing what I saw in the trailer, which was this feels safe. This feels like just your everyday average Blumhouse film. And I'm telling you, if you take a look back at what Blumhouse has done, there's a lot of safe, and there's a lot of average, and there's a lot of fucking mid. I'm just being honest. If you go back and look at the filmography, yes, they've started franchises, and yes, they crank out sequels, but many of them are just it was fine kind of shit. Blumhouse doesn't have a lot of movies that really push the needle, lately, at least. So it's concerning for me as a whole. Anyways, let's get back into the. They also say when your new Exorcist movie doesn't have an in memoriam in the credits months after the man responsible for shaking the iconic classic left us, you know there's more than a few problems. What a disgrace. Yikes, party of two, your table's ready. If they don't actually have one in there, I think that's either just not very classy, or maybe we don't know how Friedkin felt about this, right? Because obviously it's in reference to William Friedkin, who just passed away recently. You have to have that in there, don't you? Or is there some shit behind the scenes? Don't tell me they just forgot. I feel like that'd probably be worse. Johnny Burns says The Exorcist Believer is an exercise in corporate soullessness. Ellen Burstyn has literally 10 minutes of screen time, and I was bored from start to finish. Jump scares galore, but never any immersion for the film story. It seems our horror streak has ended. The corporate soullessness was exactly what I'm getting from the trailers, to be honest with you. That's just what I saw in this movie. And the Ellen Burstyn stuff seemed just as bad, honestly. It seemed just as forced as Sally Hardesty did in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Now, I ended up liking that movie, but that whole plot line was a big old frozen chunk of poopy. And I think this going back and everybody trying to recreate exactly what 2018's Halloween did. Imagine if this wasn't a Blumhouse film and someone went out and hired David Gordon Green to do exactly what he did with Halloween on their movie and actually brought back the older lady from the other movie. It would be like, oh my God, this is embarrassingly copy and paste. But it's Blumhouse and they were already working together, so it feels less so. But I'll be honest, what I saw of Ellen Burstyn in the trailer, I was like, whoo, God, this feels so awkward and forced and just soulless. Trace Thurman says, The Exorcist believer, whoo boy. I was actually into the first act, which is a theme we'll continue with. I was actually into the first act, but the second Burston enters the pic, it starts to fall apart. She's innocent. I guess what he's saying is it's not her fault. Now, she has openly came out and said, by the way, in this article where she was like, they asked me to do it. They offered me a boatload of money. I said, no way. They offered me even more money. I said, no way. I actually got them to like pay for this whole crazy sponsorship program and all this stuff before I would say yes. And this whole Ellen Burstyn coming back thing just feels like studio interference. It feels like the studio going, the only way we're doing this is if you bring her back. I don't care how you have to do it, and I don't know what they're going to do with Linda Blair, but it felt like this doesn't feel like a natural story to me. It doesn't feel like, hey, this movie has to be made because it's special. It feels like they're saying, do what Halloween did. We don't care how, and we don't care how good it is, but it needs to have these 3 prongs, and otherwise, we don't give a shit. Slap that bitch out into theaters, and that's just the vibe I get when I drive by 6 people and 5 I hit. And it snowballs from there. It fundamentally misunderstands what makes the original so scary, making for a dull, there's that word again, soulless retread. What a waste. Griffin Schiller says, I'm a believer in David Gordon Green. Now this one, we're getting a little bit more positive now. Griffin Schiller says, I'm a believer in David Gordon Green. Mileage may vary. For me, he's 4 for 4. And I'm assuming he's talking about just the horror movies he's done with the 3 Halloween films and then this one, because he does have a litany of films before that I actually enjoy some of. Some of them are really fucking good. Another compelling story of community in the face of evil. The Exorcist believer functions best as an interpersonal drama about rediscovering our faith in each other and is all the better for it. Big fan. While I appreciate the positive review for this, it doesn't do much to sway my opinion because those are none of the things I'm going to see an Exorcist sequel for. I don't think that they can come out, and there's going to, no matter what happens, all right, if this movie is a turd floating in the water, all right, there will always, as always, there will be people who come out and be like, it wasn't that bad. I liked it because of this, and that's fine. And again, I enjoyed Halloween Ends. I think that it was a huge bick and dickin' for people who expected one thing and got another in the Halloween franchise. But I'm just kind of fucking weird, so I still enjoy the movie. I do. Totally understand why people don't like it. But the problem that I do have with that, and with Halloween Kills too, with the Travolta storyline that they just shoved in the middle of it, like I think I said this the other day, like someone was trying to fit a Chipotle burrito into a baby sock, just like shoving his extra, like, oh, this is thoughty and heady, and I need it in there. I need to make this about that. Like, fuck Michael Myers for a little bit, is a problem that David Gordon Green has. And to hear this, like, all the community in the face of evil, we're going back to mob rules and Haddonfield's evil, but we never really actually explain any of it. We just kind of float it out there and dangle it in front of you and go, I don't actually have an ending to this story. That positive review actually scares me a little bit more than it excites me. You know, I want an Exorcist movie to be about good, evil, and to fucking scare me. Gaius Bowling, I hope I'm saying your name right, man. The Exorcist believer has solid performances, but it's completely soulless. There's that fucking word again, and lacks a distinct sense of style or atmosphere. Shocking imagery doesn't equal scares, and as a legacy sequel, it's very thin. At the end of the day, it lacks a real reason to exist. Pick it up again. That's the thoughts I was getting from the trailer. You know, why are we doing? It's okay that we're doing this. But if we're not trying to really add to the legacy and be like, hey, we've got something that's going to fuck with people, at least 30% of what The Exorcist fucked with people, nothing's going to be as good. But if you're going to make an Exorcist movie, you could just call it The Possession. Why do all this tying into the franchise if you had no intention to ever fucking go there with the movie? Like an Exorcist sequel should. And granted, I know Exorcist 2 was Exorcist 2. They shouldn't have done that piece of shit either. Exorcist 3 kicks ass, though. Might as well just left that alone and done another movie. Sydney says The Exorcist believer is exactly what you would expect from a David Gordon Green Exorcist movie. Take that as you will. As a Halloween's defender, I didn't hate it. As an Exorcist lover, it just doesn't stack up despite trying some new things. Demons are too nice these days. Demons are too nice these days is a very scary statement to read, as far as hoping that we're going to go into this movie and get something wild and crazy kids that really fucks with you into the night. I think that ship has sailed. Even the positive reviews for this don't seem to say, hey, it's scary or it'll keep you up at night. And they're just like, I enjoyed the story. And I just feel like that means that The Exorcist is a disappointment. If The Exorcist movie is not scary, The Exorcist movie is a fucking disappointment. That's just how I feel about it, you know? And I want it to be good. I really do. But I just don't understand why you would make an Exorcist sequel and not try to make it fucking scary. What the fuck are we even doing here, Greg? But I enjoy David Gordon Green's films too. I just don't know why, if he wants to make indie films, he keeps taking on gigantic horror franchises that have studio mandated points that they have to hit. That I don't understand. Film poser Juan Mojica says, I hope I'm saying your name right as well. Well, The Exorcist believer did not make a believer out of me. As someone who isn't a fan of the 1970, who is not a fan of the 1973 film, there are those out there. Some people don't like the fucking Exorcist. I don't understand you, but I respect it. I will say that this film is quite tame and not exciting. God, tame is the worst thing you want to hear for a fucking Exorcist sequel. While the performances are solid, its pacing issues, predictable plot, and constant preachy tone brings this film down. Preachy is a word I hate to fucking hear about a movie as well. Ew. Jeff Nelson says The Exorcist believer is a... guess. Soulless legacy sequel that entirely lacks atmosphere and any sense of fear. A decent enough final exorcism scene isn't enough to save this generic possession tale that gets stuck in exposition hell. Ellen Burstyn is wasted. If there's a ton of exposition in this movie, I'm gonna shit my pants and cry. I don't know why that's what I went with, but I'll fucking do it. There doesn't need to be much exposition in a movie like this. It's not about the exposition. We're not making a Marvel film here. You build the fucking atmosphere. In The Exorcist, even when shit wasn't going on, I felt the fucking demon behind me going, oh. And then all of a sudden you see that fucking face pop up. That's what it's about. It doesn't need to have action happening on screen. I need fucking dread. Because she's got a huge ass. And you got your head all the way up it. Movie File says The Exorcist believer completely missed the mark for me. It's dull, lacks any originality or creativity, never truly interested in fully developing any plot or narrative. The religious plot, back the truck up, back it up, Major League 2 style. Never truly interested in fully developing any plot or narrative. This was a problem that we had with Halloween. Well fucking put by this guy. And I enjoyed all three David Gordon Green Halloween movies. I did, much to a lot of people's dismay. I did. But a big problem with him was never fully interested in fully developing the plots or narratives that they carrot dangle in front of you. That's a problem. The religious plot was messy. And I imagine they're talking about here, remember in the trailer when they're like, you know, every culture has their own way of dealing with exorcisms. And then they kept showing like different people in different parts of the world. I said in that trailer, we did 2 deep breakdowns that I'll put at the end of this for those trailers. But I said in those trailers, it feels like one of those David Gordon Green things that we're going to see 20 minutes of this and it could be messy. It may not go anywhere. So that's frightful. There are solid performances, but David Gordon Green just wasn't the right fit. Okay, Patrick Bureau Patrick. The Exorcist believer is a soulless. God damn that! Did you guys get together and plan this? You fucking did, didn't you? We wasted a good surprise on you. Continuation of a classic which never proves its need to exist. There that is again. Leslie Odom Jr. does his best with what he has to work with, and the third act is fine. But overall, it's very boring and painfully average. Now, I am seeing some people say I liked it up until the Ellen Burstyn 4 sequel shit. And now I'm seeing other people say I only liked the ending. So, a little bit of hope in that. Maybe we just kind of hit a stride in there somewhere. I don't know. Average again. To me, average, tame. These are the death nails for an Exorcist fucking sequel. Eric Weber says, I cannot believe I'm telling you this, but David Gordon Green has exorcised the demons of Halloween Ends with the shockingly wicked Exorcist believer, and we're using all caps now, grounded and brutal film that showcases a truly fantastic Leslie Odom Jr. Be prepared for the biggest surprise of 2023. Wow. So that is, I mean, there is no mince in those words. Grounded and brutal and surprise of 2023. I hope Eric's right. I do. I fucking do. Viewer Non said The Exorcist believer is technically fine, but very flat. Solid acting, but it's never ever scary. Never ever scary, and there's no sense of doom or dread. We talked about that. There are too many characters to service and not enough running time. It feels like a Netflix season hastily chopped down to 110 minutes. Neil Vag! I'm going to pronounce that like that. The Exorcist believer is a fun watch on the big screen. It builds tension using all the right horror mechanics before crescendoing, big words now, crescendoing into a fraught and very satisfying final act, a somewhat muddled attempt to recapture the magic of the original, which falls short but entertains. And this is where I think the movie's going to ultimately land on. With the lowered expectations from the reviews and shit that we're getting, I feel like people are going to go in and go, that was fucking all right. Whereas had they not screened this for anybody and we didn't have these reactions and whatever, I think people would have gone in there and been like, came out kind of the way a lot of people felt when they watched the trailer. But I think the reviews on this it seems like we're going to get a lot of 5s and 6s. It's just completely average reviews for this. Could be wrong. Hunter Bolding says it feels like they had a finished script for The Exorcist Believer and then Ellen Burstyn said yes, so they decided to add the legacy sequel stuff in. There's some really excellent material mixed in with confusion. It's enjoyable, but not great. And god damn, did they not watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022? That's what that felt like. It felt like they had a cool Leatherface movie, some wild shit in there, and then all of a sudden someone watched Halloween 2018, some higher up, and was like, do that. I don't care. Put it in. Put it in. I feel like that's what happened there. To see that Blumhouse and Universal and all the writers and people that would do something this obvious copy and paste is a little oof. Vico says The Exorcist Believer is another undistinguished horror movie that has no business even being mentioned around the iconic original of 73. Please stop David Gordon Green from taking the reins of horror franchises. Apparently Halloween 2018 was his peak in this genre. Just 10 says, going to be an outlier. I shockingly like The Exorcist Believer as a film, and it's David Gordon Green's most mature character study since George Washington in 2000. But it's barely a horror film. A fucking Exorcist movie. Barely a horror film. Fuck a duck. Now I know why Blum was scared of T-Swift. This will be very front-loaded box office, meaning I guess no one's going for week 2. Rennie Wise, and that was a positive review. Rennie Wise says The Exorcist Believer is fine. My cynicism turned into faith witnessing Leslie Odom Jr. and Lydia Jewette's Tinder bond, but the absolute lack of atmosphere and convoluted intentions felt lacking. Fun enough last third, there that is again, but overall lacks intensity and depth. Lacks intensity. And welcome one more time for the cheap sheets. No intensity in an Exorcist film. And just one more. Lewis says, Taylor's version says, well, color me stoked. The Exorcist Believer isn't just good, it's bloody great. Not without its flaws, which we'll get into, but a very good time at the movies. With an excellent third act, there that is again, so that's hopeful. That really seals the whole deal. Fans of the original, though, not sure this one's for you. That perplexes the ever-loving shit out of me. And this is not against this person for saying this, especially for a movie I haven't seen. I wouldn't poo-poo anybody's ideas or opinions, but for Blumhouse or Universal, like, fans of the greatest horror movie of all time probably won't like this horror movie is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. This is a lot of what I expected to see in these reactions, and the reviews again will be out tomorrow, but I just wanted to go through them with you guys. It's landing at almost exactly what we thought it was going to land at from the trailers. I heard that there was an extra test screening and that they changed a bunch of shit, and someone was saying, no, it's amazing now. We'll see. This is going to be one of those movies where some people die on that hill, that it's the greatest fucking thing since sliced bread, and some people will scream into the streets, and then a lot of people will just be like, it was average. I mean, that kind of lays out the litany of it, but everything's sort of polarizing these days. And they still have 2 sequels to do after this for a thing that they co-paid $400 million for. It's interesting. It's super interesting. Hey, let's hope the movie fucking kicks ass. We'll see it on Thursday. We'll see you guys super soon. Got a new skit coming very, very soon. Love your all's fucking faces. We'll see you soon. Oh, Soulless!
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again. Sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, God damn.
God damn you, faggot!
Halloween never ends, suck my fucking dick, and I don't really care what Blumhouse fucking says. Put him in a box, or suck a fucking cock. You can say he's dead, but we all know he's not, yeah. So let's go trick-or-treating, let's go fucking drinking, let's all go rent Pumpkinhead on VHS.